This video is brought to you by FanTeam. For all you FPL enthusiasts out there, this is your chance to win money out of playing an FPL style game. Do you want to tell the people how this works?
Well, it's basically very similar to FPL if you're very used to playing Fantasy League on the Premier League website. However, with a twist, with this game, you don't have a budget, so you can select whatever players you like, except the same rules apply when it comes to selecting 3 or more players from the same team. You are still limited to just 3 players. But apart from that, your team is absolutely free to play whatever way you want to play. It's the same as FPL rules in terms of scoring. You get 2 wild cards during the season, and the main difference between FPL and this game is that in this game you can actually win real money. The top 10% of all players will be paid out. So if you finish first, the prize pool is £30,000. So if you finish first, you can win £5,000, and it's just £3 to play.
Yeah, but with our link in the description below, you can actually play for free throughout the whole season. You want to be joining the EPL Unlimited season game. So for absolutely no payment whatsoever, no deposit needed at all, get in it with a chance to win it. The link is in the description below.
You do have to join by Thursday midnight, and you'll have to redeem your ticket by midday on Friday for this to be valid. So you do have to be quick, but if you do join between now and Thursday midnight, you will be getting a free ticket for this game, so get involved.
Let's get into the transfer news, and let's start off with Matt Law, what he said about the remainder of the transfer window. And he says the plan is for more exits before the transfer window shuts, and just who leaves may dictate any remaining incoming business. And he also says that Spurs are still hoping to add a winger into their transfer business.
Yeah, and that's obviously music to our ears in terms of Tottenham looking to add another winger. That's what we're all hoping for, another high-class player in that position to offer competition with Brennan Johnson. Look, the names are drying up at the moment. There's a lot of moves. Obviously, there's other players that we've gone for who've gone to other teams, and our targets do seem to be drying up a bit. I'm worried we might fall into what Liverpool have done in terms of they went for Zubimendi, and they felt like if they didn't get him, there's no other player on the market worth getting. I hope that isn't the case for Tottenham in terms of us missing out on some of our targets such as Neto and Douye. I hope we have some other targets who we still think can make a contribution. But as we did with our video, as we said, we still need a lot of players to leave to make room. So let's hope we get a move on soon.
Yeah, Matt Law also says that there is confidence that the Tottenham squad is physically more prepared to last the course of a grueling season ahead of the season where Ange Postecoglou will be aiming to compete on all fronts despite their burnout at the end of last season. Let's hope that's the case, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's talk about Archie Gray. The Telegraph says that there's a feeling within Spurs that Archie Gray is ready to help provide cover at right back this season, but will eventually develop into a top-class midfielder.
Yeah.
So do you think the plan is Archie Gray cover at right back, Spence cover at left back?
And if that is the case, then that makes room for a midfielder if we don't see Gray as a midfielder right now. So I think it does make sense. I'd rather, if we're keeping Spence, he's back up in his strongest position, which is right back. I actually think in a weird way, Gray might be more suited to left back than Spence is, in a weird way, because I think when Gray cuts inside, I feel like he might be a bit more comfortable in those tighter spaces in Spence, and I think allowing Spence to play at right back where he can foray down the right wing and exploit the space in that way might be better. So I'd like to see us experiment with that, but I think this is what we predicted when we signed, or what I predicted when we signed, that Gray will be covered right back, and when he's got more experience and he's grown into his body a bit more and got a bit more physicality, then he'll be ready to really compete for those midfield positions. And I do assume he'll play in midfield in some games this year, but I think when it comes to big Premier League games and stuff like that, or when it comes to him rotating in the Premier League, I think he'll be playing more right back than he will in midfield. And it makes sense, and he can do that role to a good standard anyway, so I think it's good.
Yeah. Let's talk about Ashley Phillips. The Sky Sports reported yesterday that Getafe are among the clubs interested in Tottenham's Ashley Phillips on loan. I mean, it would be a surprise to me if he does go to Getafe. I would have expected quite a lot of English teams would be interested as well.
Getafe are a La Liga side. So that's very positive. I mean, all the English sides are supposed to be Championship. I'd probably rather him go to La Liga and play a top-level football than going to the Championship, where I know he played last season. He did really well. We know he can play there. La Liga is a different kettle of fish. It's a lot harder, albeit it's a different country, different kind of culture. So you could argue, having him stay in England might be better. But I'd be really interested to see if he goes to Getafe and plays regularly, how he gets on in top La Liga football, because that would be a really interesting challenge for him. So if there are no Premier League teams interested, I think Getafe is a good move.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'd rather him go to La Liga than the Championship. But I would have thought even like some lower-end Premier League teams would have been interested in him.
I mean, he's very young. He's 19?
Yeah.
I've seen team. I think Southampton. I saw they signed a young a centre back from Man City for about 24 million. But he's a bit older, maybe I don't know if he's a bit more experienced, but they signed him for big money, and they're going to play him. And they don't. I think Premier League teams aren't going to be loaning 19-year-old centre backs from other Premier League teams to give them experience. They're looking at survival.
True. Let's talk about the other youngsters at Spurs and what their future holds. Dan Kilpatrick says that Tottenham are expected to loan out youngsters Alfie Devine, Ashley Phillips and Jamie Donnelly before the end of the month, but Mikey Moore will be part of Ange Postecoglou's squad this season. Will Lancashire has also caught the eye in pre-season and could be loaned out, though Spurs are short of cover at centre-forward after a long season loan moves for Alejo Veliz and Dane Scarlett to Espanyol and Oxford, respectively. Tom Barkley says that Spurs are set to keep Mikey Moore at the club for this season rather than loan him out. Given he's only turned 17, the thinking is makes more sense to keep him close, learn from the senior pros and get minutes here and there. In terms of Will Lancashire, do you feel like we are short at number 9 if we loan Lancashire out?
No, I don't. I don't agree with that, because not only do we have Richarlison and Solanke, but we also have Decky, who's proven he can play that role if need be. Sonny's obviously played the number 9 and he scored a lot of goals there last season. Yes, we don't want him there predominantly. Doesn't mean he can't fill in that role if need be as well, because there's a player there who, when we're saying he wasn't his best position, he still scored 17 goals. So that's the quality of player we have who can fill in there. So I don't necessarily think we are short, but if Lancashire does stay, and I know Richarlison's struggling with fitness, he could fill in that role. I do expect him to get maybe some minutes in Europa League as well. But I don't agree that we're short in the number 9.
Well, if they only want to use Sonny in the left wing position and they want to keep that, that's his position for the whole season, they don't want to move him to number 9, then maybe it does make sense to keep Will Lancashire around just when you look at Richarlison's injury record. Maybe,
but look, that's if Solanke and Richarlison are both going to be injured, then all of a sudden you're looking at Lancashire. Again, Decky can play that role as well. He's been playing there in pre-season and actually did pretty well, so he can be an option there. So I'm not saying we should definitely loan Lancashire out because of that. I'm just saying I don't agree with that statement that we're lacking in depth in that. Like what teams in the Premier League have more than 2 strikers?
Not many that I can think of.
I don't think any.
Man United just got Højlund and Xerxes. That's all they got. Arsenal
Havertz and Jesus, if you can call Havertz a striker.
Yeah.
Haaland is the only striker for City at the moment. Newcastle have Isaac and Wilson. No one has 2.
Long gone of the days of having Defoe, Bent, Berbatov and Keane in the same squad.
So I don't agree that. I mean, unless he's the claim is every single team in the Premier League is lacking depth in the striker position. Like, I just don't see how we lack
That does
depth.
seem to be the claim.
I just don't agree with that. I don't agree we are.
Let's focus on a few more outgoings. Let's talk about Sergio Reguilon. AS are reporting that Jose Mourinho has requested that Fenerbahce board sign Sergio Reguilon. Fenerbahce will face competition from Barcelona and Galatasaray to sign Tottenham's left back. We have heard a lot of links between Barcelona and Sergio Reguilon in the past few days. Does it make sense that Mourinho wants Reguilon? I can't remember the kind of feeling between the two. I know he broke the COVID rules and Mourinho weren't too happy about that, but that was just after he bought him that whole big thing of meat, wasn't it?
Yeah, the roasted ham. Obviously, he brought him to the club, and he had a pretty good start under Mourinho. And I think the way Mourinho plays actually really suited Reguilon. I think that being that kind of left back who can get forward and also provide width. I think Reguilon likes being that kind of fullback, so I can understand the temptation. Obviously, if Barca are coming calling, I mean, if I'm Reguilon, you've got to jump at that chance because those kind of opportunities don't come around that often. So if the Barca interest is serious, I don't think he goes to Fenerbahce. But if that deal's off the table and he he's struggling with options and he's got his old boss there, Mourinho, saying he wants to join, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets convinced.
Yeah. It's just important that someone takes him from now before the end of the window. Oliver Skipp, Footy Insider, says that Leicester are leading the race to sign Tottenham midfielder Ollie Skipp. Fellow Premier League newcomers Ipswich are also pushing to sign the 23-year-old before the transfer deadline on the 31st of August. I just can't see us letting him go with the club train quota that we talked about yesterday. I just can't see us letting him go.
Yeah, I mean, if we let him go, the squad size gets reduced to 23 players, so we'll be limited to a squad of 23, unless the thought is you sell Skipp and you bring in, I don't know, Kyle Walker-Peters, I guess would be the only option, and then you can fill out the squad that way.
Marcus Edwards.
Or Marcus Edwards, but unless the thought process, look, at the moment we've got 28 players for a squad of 24. If we let Skipp go, we'll have 27 players for a squad of 23. In a weird way, we're in a very similar position. Just the squad size is reduced, but that squad place would have only gone to Ollie Skipp anyway. So if he surplus the requirements, it doesn't change that much. It just means the squad size is reduced, and we lose the ability to use Skipp if we need him as a midfield option. But if we lose Skipp, it still means we have to sell another 5 to get one signing in.
Yeah. So would you be in favour of selling him, or would you rather keep him at the club?
I'll let the club decide. I mean, I don't think he's massively needed, because I think the midfield is very much... the midfield is like we've filled out those positions really well. We've got a lot of options. I guess if we want to sign a midfielder, if we sell Skipp and then we sell another 6 players on top of him, maybe we can fit in a winger and a midfielder. But I don't see him getting that much game time. That's the problem. Albeit, what I will say is, I think he's actually been pretty good in pre-season. I've been pretty impressed with him. So if he's looking to impress Ange and show him that he could have a role to play, I think he's done okay in pre-season, albeit he's played quite a bit in centre-back. But it depends how much the offer is, I guess, from Leicester. I think I'd probably rather keep him. But if he's desperate to sell, then is what it is. It actually doesn't change. It does reduce the squad size, but as I say, that space was only going to Skipp anyway, so it doesn't change that much.
I guess, like, if he is desperate to leave to go and get a starting role somewhere, it probably is the right thing just to let him go. That's the reality.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Sergio Roberto, former Barcelona player. Mundo Deportivo says that Tottenham held talks with Sergio Roberto about signing him as a free agent after he left Barcelona. However, the talks did not progress, and now West Ham are in contention to sign the versatile midfielder. Would you have taken Sergio Roberto at the club?
I mean, he wouldn't have been my first choice. Yeah, obviously, he's an experienced player now, been at Barca for many years. I know he's played midfield, he can play right back. He's never really nailed down a spot in any certain position, I feel, at Barca. He's always been a kind of fill-in kind of player, very similar to maybe what Archie Gray might be for us this season. I don't know. I mean, you don't last at Barca that long if you're a bad player. I don't think he's a bad player, but I think he's old now. He's
32.
Yeah, he's 32. I don't see where he fits in at Tottenham for sure. So I don't think that really makes a lot of sense.
Telegraph are reporting that Ange Postecoglou would have ideally liked to team Dominic Solanke with Conor Gallagher, but Chelsea never quoted Spurs less than £45 million, despite agreeing to sell him to Atletico Madrid for £33.7 million.
Well,
I mean, £45 million is not exactly the worst price.
No, I don't think so. If you really want him, and especially...
Exactly. If Ange is saying, like, I really want this guy, and then Chelsea are quoting £45 million for a Chelsea boy, club captain last season, like, surely you just go and get that done.
Well, the problem is he wants to be
top earner.
And are we going to give him that? Does he deserve to be that? Probably not. And I don't know, like, all of a sudden he comes in and he's earning more than any of our other midfielders. Does he deserve that? Probably
but
not.
I get that. That's that half of it, but I'm talking about just the club's kind of negotiations of the side of it.
45 million is not bad.
Surely, if Ange really wants him, and that's the price that Chelsea are quoting, you just go and do it. Like, I mean, we spent 65 million on. We spent north 60 million on Richarlison, 50 million on Brennan Johnson, 60 million on Dominic Solanke. Surely Gallagher's worth 45 million.
I mean, I don't, I don't think 45 million is outrageous. There's only also 8 million difference to what Atletico played. Obviously, they're going to put a premium up when it's a Premier League rival and also a direct rival from them as well, a London rival. So it makes sense that he's going to be more expensive to sell to us than abroad. That's usually how these things work. And I think an 8 million premium is not actually that bad compared to what I probably would have expected.
Yeah, exactly. Last but not least, we're going to talk about Nico Williams. The Telegraph reported that Ange Postecoglou was understanding that a move for Nico Williams was never particularly realistic. Tottenham were one of the clutch of clubs to inquire of the conditions of a deal, and would be told that the winger's £50 million release clause would only be triggered in a one-off immediate payment. So no surprises why we didn't try and do that.
I mean, for me, he's that one similar to like Eze. He's just one of these players where if there's an opportunity, you just got to try and snatch it with both hands. 50 million, obviously, is a big outlay to do it all up front, but I mean, I would love him through the door. He would be such a game changer for us on the wing. He is such an exciting player, and it's one of those where like if you don't get him while you can, you're going to regret missing out on him 100%. So if it means stumping up that 50 million, I mean, as a fan, I want us to do it, of course. I want Spurs to show that ambition. I know things aren't always like that, and Spurs are never going to kind of stump up that kind of money in one go, which is a shame, even though we probably could afford to do it. But that's the reality of how the clubs run and the transfer window and how these transfers happen. But I would just love the idea of Nico Williams at Tottenham, but unfortunately we're probably never going to see it.
Yeah, I guess if, we were running the club on Football Manager, things would be different, eh?
We'll probably bust, but yeah.
Not with your frugal ideas. But that is your Tottenham update. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below of the transfer business that Spurs are potentially going to do from now until the end of the window.